All right. Thank you. Welcome. My name is Rikupekka Oksanen. I'm from University of Jyväskylä, and I'm gonna show you some use cases at our university. So I've been a web developer for 15 years or more, almost 20 years now, and I've been using Plone for over 10 years at our university. I'm not quite a programmer. I do HTML and CSS and lots of Plone stuff. I work part of the team of 5 or so persons at our university. We are developing Plone and Python and all web stuff. Last year I showed 3 cases of our university. Our websites, some 2 million hits per month at our main website. And then we have created this portal called Koppa for study materials, where people can see the material they need to study. And also we have created Moniviestin, which is a video publishing portal. It was created in 2003, and people are still using it even if there's YouTube around. So that is quite successful. And you can see the video from the last year at Vimeo. And this year, this presentation will be bigger or better, or at least there will be more cases than last year. So, I'm talking about how we are empowering users to do stuff on their own. We are not developing and doing everything for them. And I think Plone works at that case very well. I also discuss about creating applications through the web without coding, or at least much coding. Also, we have had so many cases with some success and more success and not so much success. And much of that depends on how you can communicate with the client or customer or the users. There are some agile or lean perspectives in my presentation. Also important thing is the product life cycle, which I will discuss more about. And Plone enables us to experiment with things easily, but without boundaries in the end. And as I said, over 10 years of Plone usage at our university. We have some 15,000 students and 2,600 staff members. We are a multidiscipline research university in the center of Finland. So we have everything from mathematics to human sciences and so on. Finland is up there and Romania is down there. And there's Europe. So, all right. I have only experience from public sector mostly, where I worked for a company for a short while, but my last 15 years I've been working at the university. And I think there are some difficulties at that area. We have lots of projects that come and go, and funding comes and goes with the projects. There's not so many year projects and stuff. And we have fixed-term employees, like our developers, that are hired on project funding. And well, some projects are just for planning and figuring out, not for developing something real, which I don't like. And projects have a start and an end, and that's, well, a problem, I think. Since we have managed to develop such systems that don't die when the project ends. So we have to maintain them because people are using them, and that's a good thing. But the funding isn't there. So we are dealing with that kind of problem. So who actually maintains the system when the project funding has ended? At our university, client or the customer is sometimes hard to find to whom we are doing this, to some steering group or the actual users who are using the system. And sometimes it's hard to find someone who says yes or no, or who's being responsible for this whole thing. But let's get to the cases now. Okay, forms, 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 and forms. This is really important. And I'm, of course, talking about, well, it was 2007 or something. And at that time, these things were cool and hip, or at least some of them. But at our university, people just wanted to make simple web forms. We already had some tools. Mr. Interview, that program worked only at Internet Explorer 6, so it wasn't a good solution. Then we had this, we still have this Corpi study system, which had a form functionality, but it was considered hard to use at some cases, and it was mostly tied on course-related surveys. So we needed something else. Here comes Plone Form Gen, a fantastic tool. Through the web form generator for Plone. How many of you know Plone Form Gen? All right, good. Try it and use it. Here are some examples, of course. It's a most often or always it's a one-page survey or form application. There are text fields and string fields and selection fields and so on. Basic form stuff here. And this is how form folder looks at the folder level. It uses Plone metaphors, which I think is quite easy to understand if you understand Plone. And this is how we have used it at our university. There have been application forms. Actually, the bigger use of FormGen started when one faculty wanted to do recruitment using electronic forms and not just paper. And of course there are registration forms to different kind of events. We have support requests, and you can use the mailer object to send the support request to a certain email address depending on which your problem is. And then you can collect data for study purposes, and we have also developed a lot of adapters on FormGen, which I will tell you about. We have registration and payments. You can pay the registration fee. You can order stuff and pay the stuff you have ordered, and so on. Here are some our university specials which we have developed. PFG Office add-on. It displays the saved data in a browser, or it opens it in Excel or in OpenOffice, and this has been really, really useful. Then we have a Save Attachments adapter, which saves the attachments to Plone content, and which then can be accessed through the Excel file. And we have permissions for accessing those attachments easily. And then we have this payments integration, which uses get paid and lots of customization. And then we have also integration with our publication repository. This is how we got started with the PFG Office add-on. The original download view has some issues. I think there's this small link to click here to get the saved input, and then the big button to delete the saved input. So that was a problem. we came up with this. There are 4 ways to view the saved input. View it in browser, or open it in Excel, or open it in OpenOffice, or text file. And the little link on the bottom of the page where you can actually delete the contents of the saved requests. About the Excel integration, actually if you open this data to Excel, and if someone adds more data into the form, it automatically updates the Excel, and that has been really useful. This is the Save Attachments adapter. It has 3 download protection levels, so you can require login to view the attachments, or you can require permissions, actual edit permissions to view the attachments, or just you can see the attachments from the Excel file. There are simple links where you can click and the attachment opens. And that was very useful when they did the recruitment thing at physics department or something like that. They had some 200 applications, and then they just sent the Excel file at email, and all the professors who were in charge of this application process, they read through all the applications and opened the attachments, CVs and so on, and then decided who's getting in. Really useful that way. All right, then about the payments. Here we have a simple form to buy an SPSS statistics license for 30 euros. You insert your name and address and so on, and then you check out to the payment process. And here we have this checkout page. We are using a Finnish service called PayTrail to deal with the banks and Visa, and then we have our own PayPal integration, and that's a lot of Asko Soukka magic behind all that. But it works wonderfully. Our annual amount of cash flow through all these payment systems we have here is over €1 million now, and thousands and thousands of payment transactions. So maybe that's another case in some other Plone conference to discuss about that payment system. All right. We have this checkout page adapter. We are heavily using the Plone Form Gen adapters. And here is the checkout page adapter. You can actually link this payment to our test service. So when we create a new form using Plone Form Gen, for example, for some registration, the content editors can easily create the form, then attach the payment to our test service to fully test the whole payment process through. And if it works, then they just change the checkout service to our production service. And also we are using data grid field to map the information from the form to some payment data that is needed. This data grid field is also a Plone add-on. Okay, here are some numbers. We have some 800 public forms at our websites, and some 100 forms in our intranets, and which are behind logging in. And we can use groups to show certain forms to people, basic Plone permission management. And I couldn't calculate the amount of responses we have gotten through all these forms, but there must be thousands or tens of thousands. And that's a lot of manual work saved using just forms. And most of the forms are created by normal content editors, not by tech support. So that's fantastic. All right, about Form Gen, you can copy paste forms in a site. Then you can export, import forms from site to another, even from Plone version to another. That's one thing we learned. Form Gen uses Plone metaphors consistently, easy to use. The payment integration was really hard, but it paid off, pun intended. Okay, case 2, Plomino. We can build applications through the web, and that's something. This case came around 2013 to build a working time survey application. Multilingual but really simple to use survey system for every staff member to input exact data about their daily tasks in a 30-minute period of time, so really exact data during 1 week of the year. Everyone would have to participate to that survey. The data should be editable and re-editable. If you input Monday, and then you have to input Tuesday and Wednesday and so on, and probably change some of the data. And some of the details were still unknown. So this was at December 2013, and it was a sudden request from high level at our university hierarchy. And it should be done by January. So we had a little dilemma there. We were running short of developers at the beginning of 2014. We had other project planned for that time, of course. And we knew that developing this kind of system would cause some resistance from the actual users, since who wants to fill out their weekly hours to 2 or 3 systems? Well, our university staff members do. Could we do this just using Plone Form Gen? The answer was no. It wasn't good for this case, but Asko or someone else had idea about Plomino, fantastic tool. And one difference between Plomino and Form Gen is that Plomino forms can be revisited and the data can be edited. And using Plomino is rather simple, creating an application with it. And we did the first draft, and the customer got more ideas on how to edit the survey. And they also got more ideas to add 2 more surveys to this. Background survey and work trip survey to this 1 week. But when using Plomino, you could do all these things in a short period of time and with not that much programming. Okay, here's an example of this. This is how a person who has logged in sees the survey. There's this, first you have to fill the background information, and it shows if you have filled it or not. Then you fill in the work days every day. I have filled mine, so there are the 7 work days submitted. And for every day there is this work trip survey that one has to fill out. Here we have this 1-day task. You fill in the day and the task. You can select over 40 different types of tasks, and then you insert the time. If you have had meetings, you insert 2 hours. If you have been doing some research, then you insert 4 or 6 or 7 hours, and so on. And of course, these task types evolved during the development, but it wasn't a problem with Plomino. So the application was finished by January 2014, but the content wasn't. So they needed translations, and they needed instructions, and they needed emails that they sent to the staff members, and they needed some lawyers to handle with the instructions and so on. And new questions and question types were invented. Actual release was on May. and 50 people were selected to participate every week. And all staff members participated, and everything worked pretty well, by which I mean no technical meltdowns and only little technical support was needed. We had, after that, other Plomino cases, a feedback survey for bachelor students. This project I liked. It was one man new to Plomino and 1 day development time, and the form is easy to use, and they have collected a lot of data with that. Then we have this 4-year study project for thousands of people at Jyväskylä. It required some programming, but there is a huge amount of answers. And this one case is our quality manual process, a formal way to submit data about our quality assurance process. And this was actually developed by our former vice rector, which is kind of techie guy. He just started using Plomino, and we gave him a preview site, and he did some magic there. And in a few months, he showed us what he had done, and it was there. So that was nice. This is the bachelor student survey, and Plomino. There's this table here, and here's this form where you can insert the data without the green bar or left portlets for the actual users. And this is how you edit Plomino form. Really simple, just page, and then you have these Plomino fields here and there. And of course there's this Plone permission management behind everything. So next we need to try Rapido. Nice presentation from Eric. And next, more cases. Case 3, Dexterity content types. Okay, Dexterity. How many of you know about Dexterity by now? Good. The ability to create new content types through the web, and they have behaviors and collaboration between the integrators and programmers, and so on. This case was called Sivuaineet, a portal that delivers information about minor subjects that are available at our university. It was 2013 when we got this request. They wanted to show all the subjects on one site, one place, instead that they were rippled to every faculty site. And they wanted the content to be presented in a visually pleasing way, not just text and basic pages. Of course, it should be easy to add and edit, and content should be future-proof, since there will be a national system for something like that is coming. And there should be some kind of organizational structure for managing the content behind all that. But showing the subjects should be in one view. Yet another new system, possible resistance to change. Some of the details were still vague, and most of the programmers were bound to other projects. So we need a solution that anyone could do without much programming experience. So we entered Dexterity and Faceted Navigation. So here's the front page of this portal. We have Faceted Navigation, yet another great Plone add-on, and you have these subject cards around there, and they are differentiated by faculty colors, and there's this study level letter, and it says if it's free to study or not, in one word. And then you can easily filter the results using Faceted Navigation. And I don't know if this is a visually pleasing way, but at least there are some colors there. So this is this is the view to one subject page. There's same basic information, description, work-life benefits, application time, and application additional info. described in here. One thing about Dexterity and experimentation, the application time shown in there was first a datetime field, but actually the production use showed that it can't be simple datetime field, it must be a string field. So it was really easy to change it to the Dexterity content template, and then it changed to every page that were already there. This is how the content editors see this. Basically looks like a lot like a Plone page, and so it was easy to use for the content editors. There are different kind of fields, and the mandatory fields are shown, and some validation was offered. And this is how it shows in the Dexterity administration panel. It's really easy to add without programming. You just add fields and reorder them, and that's it. Well, we still needed some custom templates to change the layout. That's in Plone Custom. It's not pretty, but it works. I think something like Mosaic would do nicely nowadays. And a little programming was eventually needed to make sure the new content types appear in the indexes for faceted navigation. But using Dexterity content types was a pretty successful way of delivering quick value to the customers, and they quickly saw how they could use this. And then they discussed about it between different content editors, and we changed a few fields here and there, and that was it. Quick feedback loop, improvement loop, and working software. All right, case 4, this is fun. Journal review systems face off. We have developed 2 journal review systems during these years for submitting and reviewing scientific articles. We have this communications of the cloud software and human technology journal review system. That's a long URL. And basic requirements for the both systems were to submit documents, to have some kind of review workflow, to use commenting, and to register and manage users, and of course permission management. And this all screams for something like Plone. Here we have the workflow for this first case. There's this paper in the middle, and you have submission and comments for general public, and single blind peer review, and revisions and acceptance, and that's it. Okay, that's the first case, and the second case workflow looks like this. And it was, well, you can guess which system took less time to develop or more time. So this came first, this Cloud SV. It's not too pretty, but it's Plone. No, Plone is pretty, but we didn't make it pretty. So here's a view where you can download the submissions, and you can log in for comments. That's public comments, I think. They weren't afraid of spam or something like that. They moderated comments, but it worked, and that's about it. It took about 2 weeks to develop, and the first version, the customer started to use it, and then they collected issues, and we fixed them, and the second version dealt with those issues. It was pretty straightforward case for Plone. Then we have this human technology thing. It uses basic Plone theme, and there you can submit your manuscript. There's 5 stages. And here are some additional requirements. The aim was to replace the old email-only review process, which was handled by one single person. And they thought that the Cloud SV process wasn't suitable. They had a more complicated case. And actually, we developed a version for Plone 3 in 2010 or 11 or something like that. They piloted it, tested it, and they weren't too happy with how easy it was to use. But they got their requirements gathered, some 150 features. And at 2012, we decided to start develop new human tech on Plone 4. And we guesstimated that it would take 2 to 4 months to develop. And they said, okay, here's a pile of money, start developing. Well, they gave us this workflow sheet in addition to the features. Enough documentation up front, easy to develop. You would think. This image is simpler, and we thought that we could perhaps develop it so that we first release the submission form, so they could first get the submissions, but they wanted the whole case in one package. In the end of 2014, we weren't finished yet. There were over 400 lines of requirements in the Bible, which is one big Excel sheet. It had taken way over the guesstimated 4 months, and they calculated that it has taken some 4 to 5 years since we started in 2010. And we tried something about how about releasing a part of it and just start using it, but they wanted one big release with all the features in it. Of course, the features and the scope changed all the time. Here's the screenshot of the Bible. It has over 400 lines of requirements. But this is how we dealt with it. The sponsor or the manager who actually paid for the development, she wasn't the one who was our customer in that case, put some constraints. She said that, okay, we have to focus on something. And it forced the customer to focus on the most important things, finally, and focus on to how to get this thing out of the door, to use it, and then develop it more. Which was really important that we had one really good developer who started active communication with the customer and found a trusting relationship in that development cycle, and that was really important. Wide pilot use was in fall 2014, and more development, and the release was the beginning of this year, and it was a happy day for every one of us. And here are some of the features. Dexterity content types, lots of workflows, lots of content rules, lots of automatic, semi-automatic and manual email notifications, heavy use of Plone commenting. Content editors could do a lot of stuff while we were developing. Lots of roles. It had to have a super simple login system, not registration, but the authors and reviewers received a single link through email that they clicked the link and they were logged in. And that was a really nice feature. Login links could be timed, and they wanted big buttons for better usability. And then we used content type portlets and which were tied to certain workflow states for instructions. Okay, here is how it looks like for an author. The author view is quite simple. Few big buttons, instructions, and your manuscript on the left. The reviewer can see this. More big buttons, correspondence sheet and commenting and so on, more instructions for this role only. And then the administration or managing editor can see all this. Lots of stuff on the navigation and even more buttons and so on. This was fun. They had tens or even hundreds of automated or semi-automated messages which were triggered using content rules. And the customer actually created all these messages here, and they used some keywords to make it more dynamic on who would receive the emails and what there would be written. Here's one example of an email template. And here's example of email archive. They wanted a full paper trail for every email or transaction, so they could later on look how it went. That was quite useful. And then we developed collective roster. Some of you may have heard of it. It's a faculty staff directory-like add-on. And here are the content rules. Part of them. There were a lot of content rules used in that case. And I think this case really took advantage of many of Plone features and the Plone flexibility. And I'm not sure if you could have done that with any other CMS. Plone is powerful tool. All right, case 5. I have still a couple of more minutes, but this is not a long case. This is Student Compass portal and an aspect about security. Okay, this Student Compass is a system which provides psychological help to depressed, anxious and stressed students. We have a psychology department at our university, and they wanted to create this kind of portal to give help to students. So there's lots of text and images and videos and content and self-help exercises. University logged-in users can see the content, and it's created by professionals, of course. And then they had this person-to-person support. These courses that the students log in, they are anonymous, student 1 and student 2, and they have a personal diary, but their name is visible at some comment fields in their member folders. And they have weekly exercises, and this assigned coach will comment and give them responses on their exercises. It's basic Plone stuff. Content, member folders, Plone Form Gen for the diaries, commenting and permissions. And security was and is really important in that case. It's almost medical data when the students are addressing their personal mind health issues there in the diaries. And at the beginning of this project there might have been some human errors with Plone permissions, a disclaimer. We have members folder and sharing tab and logged in users and view permissions or something like that. And there are lots of users in the members folder. And someone might have accessed some others folder accidentally. So the customer thought that Plone was not secure enough. So in one summer they hired a couple of PHP developers for a short period of time. They thought that this Plone system wasn't secure and it wasn't easy to use, and they could develop a better system in a couple of months with better usability and security. And they also told us Plone is so popular that there are more security holes in Plone than in PHP applications. And this was this kind of moment for us. Mind-boggling. Okay, in the end, they didn't come up with the PHP site after all. And we are still using Plone in this case, and this week we added new features there. Actually other universities have been so interested in this solution that this department is discussing on selling it as a service. And that's some kind of success, I think. All right, conclusions. One does simply conclude since we have 0 minutes time. Keep your friends, developers close, keep your users closer, find a good way to communicate with the users, gather real feedback fast, and keep the product lifecycle in the sponsor's mind and experiment. Through the web or real programming, they both use force and are really cool. So, Plone 5, out-of-the-box features are still plenty. It has mosaic and dexterity, and experimentation is possible, and it looks really cool. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you. Any questions? All right.
Do I need to use a microphone?
Microphone, yeah. Oh, yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
So the forms where you have the students, like the first case study and the last one.
Yeah.
Does your university have requirements that that information be stored securely? And so we have perhaps a similar issue that we're at, but so where our student IDs have to be stored on a secure server that's separate from where our website is.
Okay.
So I was wondering if you're storing that information in the ZOAP database or if you're sending it to a different database and how that information is going back and forth. And if you're using Plone Form Gen, because we haven't figured out how to do that.
Okay. We are just storing it in the same database.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We trust Plone in that.
Okay.
We have one case where we had to use a custom adapter and just send it to another system because we are also not allowed to store it.
Right.
We just use the custom adapter and we have a target URL place where we push the data in and forget about it.
Okay. Can I talk to you later?
Yeah.
So, thank you. You said you can export and import into different versions.
Yeah.
Which one did you try?
4.1 to 4.3.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we have Plone Form Gen on Plone 2.1, so
Okay.
our old master system is still 2.1, and we are going to migrate this year at the end of the year to 4.3.
Okay.
And we are wondering how to get the forms from 2.1 to 4.3, but
I don't think that
we
import
don't have
export-
that many.
export
I think it's 200 forms, so there will be an unlucky student to manually put them in, I guess, maybe.
All right.
Yeah, well, thank you for using Plomino. And as what I like about your presentation is you are using Plomino, but Plone Form Gen and Dexterity through the web. So you are using all a different solution every time with the right solution for the right problem. So that's nice to see that, because sometimes someone decides I'm going to do everything with Plone Form Gen or everything with Plomino, and probably not the right strategy. So that's a nice thing to see. And as we recommended to be close to your users, what do you think Plomino should be? Do you think you have flaws or something should be improved?
Excuse me?
As you use other systems on Plomino,
Yeah.
what do you think Plomino what could be the nice thing to do to add to Plomino to improve it?
I'm not sure. We have used it in 4 cases, and it has lots of bells and whistles and lots of features in it. And it's quite usable for, well, if you are creating an application with it, you have to have some kind of technical background, I think. And that's the only requirement. But you can make the applications easy for the actual users who are inserting data using Plomino. But that's your job.
Okay.
Question for the payment system. So we had requirements for payment systems, but we rejected it.
Yeah.
What is the service running on? So you said there's the Plone and you connect it to the real service?
Yeah, there's GetPaid, which is Plone add-on, but it's really heavily modified. But the actual payment system to Finnish banks is PayTrail, which is Finnish service.
Okay. And do you install a client for that, or how does it? Or do you directly connect to the bank?
It's somehow connected to the PayTrail system. Asko Soukka will know more about that.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
All right, thank you.